Welcome back to the latest episode of Dad's Watching Sports. It's episode 24, Sunday, July 19th, 2020. Quick shout out to Mrs. Draper. That's the original, the OG, Sherry, my mom. Happy birthday, Mom, on July 19th. I'll get into a little bit of that later on, but I had to give her a quick shout out. Michael Draper, Matt Kirk, Kyle Castles back from his vacation in Fiji, and we'll get into that as well as Kyle looks a little extra tan. A little bit more tan than he did. Guys, welcome back. This is Dad's Watching Sports. Thanks so much for checking us out. If you check us out here, wherever you listen to podcasts, we appreciate you downloading us. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a review. We would love to get a rating and review. We know you want to give us a 5-star, so go ahead and plug us and do that. Guys, you can also check us out on RTF Sports Network. They are changing up some of their time. So right now we're still on Mondays at 5, but make sure you check their website before you check it out just to see if anything has changed. I know over the next couple of weeks they're going to be making some changes over there, but we definitely want you guys to check them out, rtfsportsnetwork.com. Also, make sure you interact with the show through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of our usual suspects. You can interact with our show that way. Michael, Kyle, Matt, who is about half of Matt's head, is actually in the camera right now. So there he is. Hey there.
But it's the good half. It's the half that you can't see his face. So it works well.
Right? That's right. So I've been relegated to the bedroom, which is normally, Kyle, a very good thing. But my internet is crapping out. It's funny. We're going to talk about vacations. I was in the middle of Podunk, middle of absolute nowhere, Georgia / South Carolina all last week and had unbelievable Wi-Fi. Here I am in the middle of my house. And can't have that same luxury, so I've been relegated to the bathroom, or to the bedroom, excuse me. Not in the bathroom, folks, to the bedroom, which, again, normally is a good thing. But unfortunately, I'm in here by myself, so not so much good. Now I'm in here with you two, which is feels a little weird, I'm not going to lie. So, guys, we're back, the three of us. Kyle back from Fiji, Matt back from the bathroom, and Michael back from who knows where we were in the middle of Georgia. I'm still not entirely sure. So, Kyle, I can't wait to hear about sipping pina coladas, Mai Tais, all the fun things, the beautiful beaches of Fiji. How was your vacation, man? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, Fiji or Panama City Beach, either one, right? It's the same thing.
Same thing, same difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know this. Well, my 3-year-old, Jack, he has severe tree nut allergies, so definitely can't have coconuts or tree nuts, definitely can't have pina coladas. You also know I have a medical condition which keeps me from drinking a whole lot, and so I drink a lot of water while we were down there. No pina coladas, no Mai Tais. I had one beer with dinner the last night we were there. But, my favorite part, obviously, is those of you watching on YouTube can see I'm a very large man. So my favorite part about going to the beach is the
nude beach.
Food.
Oh.
It's the food. No, not the nude beach. The food. I love the food. And we ate really well down there. Couple places I want to shout out because, like I said, I got this 3-year-old that's got a severe tree nut allergy. And most seafood's pretty safe there. But on the way down, we stopped in Birmingham, Alabama. My wife and I went to Samford University, and we like to go there. And anytime we drive through, at least go see the campus or whatever. They would not let us on campus due to COVID.
On COVID.
Did not discourage us. Most of the restaurants also would not allow us to come in and eat. Did not discourage us. My wife has a friend down there who talked to her about a spot called Saul's, S-A-W-S, Saul's Barbecue.
Okay.
So shout out to Saul's. When we called and told them about, and there's multiple of them. This one was the Juke Joint over in Mountain Brook. When we called and told them about Jack's allergies, they went above and beyond what they needed to do just to reassure us and let us know that everything was safe. They were going to make sure of it. So definitely shout out to Saul's. Shout out when we got down to Florida to Sharky's and Captain Anderson's. Sharky's, the manager came and talked to my wife and took her back close to the kitchen so she'd kind of see the way the kitchen was kind of laid out or whatever, and told her about these are the things that we need to stay away from as a family, so that they could guarantee there would be no tree nuts there. Captain Anderson's was very similar. Our waiter went back and literally checked the oil that they were going to fry the food in for Jack, just to make sure there was no chance for any type of tree nut issue. But all in all, it was a great trip. I burned. My wife and my kids tanned. However, I still lost weight. I came back about 2 pounds lighter, even for vacation. So I'll take that. We didn't get to spend a lot of time at the beach. We have a 7-month-old, and she wanted to nap, and it took us about half the week before she would actually take a nap outside.
Ooh.
So that was difficult. But the last half, it worked out really well. We had a good time. We all got airbrush T-shirts. I'll probably throw mine on next week.
Nice.
Show it off.
Nice.
But, Wrigley's a big Batman fan. He got a Batman airbrush. Jack got a SpongeBob airbrush. Hannah, the 7-month-old, she got a little baby sea turtle with a bow. Mama got an anchor on pink. I don't know. And then I got a really cool one. It's like a pirate skull with crossbones, and there's like a pirate ship inside the skull with my name over the top of it because
nice.
It's what's got to happen.
You can't go to Florida without the airbrush. Yeah.
Hey, look, if you're going to PCB, you better come back with a PCB airbrush.
That's right.
Matt, do you have something you want to throw in?
Yeah. Speaking of airbrushes, did you get a henna tattoo too?
I did not get a henna tattoo, but the boys both got the shark tooth. You remember the shark tooth necklaces?
Oh yeah.
Both of them got one of those, so that was
nice.
fun.
And I had 2 more things, Kyle. First off,
yeah.
I've been to a nude beach before, and there were people trying to eat at that nude beach, but when I got nude, they were not able to eat. So
yeah, that would be rough. I mean, probably want to stay away from the raw oysters on the nude beach.
Yes, without a doubt.
I was walking by a guy, and he said, "What an ass." I thought he was talking about me being rude.
There you go.
But and the other thing is too is I hope you were at least able to enjoy a couple of bottles of some Fiji water while you were in PCB.
You know what? I almost thought about stopping and getting some Fiji water just to kind of bring it back and show it on the camera, and I completely forgot today to go get it. But
Kyle, you don't have us fooled, man. I saw you guys swimming with dolphins. I saw the golden.
Hey, look, right across the. So we had this little condo, and right across the street from the condo was a spot called Gulf World. Shout out to Gulf World. Mama and Wrigley, they went and swam with dolphins, and then me, while Jack and Hannah took naps, and then me and Jack and Hannah came across the street, and we did a meet and greet dolphin encounter. So, kind of got to do some tricks with the dolphins or whatever. It was a good time. Yeah. Jack wanted nothing to do with the dolphin on his turn, but when it was Mama's turn to do the meet and greet, he kind of commandeered it. So it worked out well.
Nice. Well, the Draper family, we were also on vacation last week, as I mentioned on the show, and we had an awesome show. If you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. And it wasn't because Kyle wasn't there, but we did have Ryan Lemon from Kentucky Sports Radio who joined. It was really cool talking about his story of he and his wife adopting several kids over the course of their lives, and it was really cool. So definitely check that out if you're a Kentucky fan. If you're a dad and you're thinking about some adoption stuff, just check that out. But we were on vacation too. We went to Toccoa, Georgia, which is basically right on the Georgia-South Carolina border to Lake Hartwell. And guys, it was awesome. I mentioned on the show last week, we had a really rough first day. The first day, my father-in-law drops my son in the water. Luckily, he had his puddle jumper on. Then I try to catch him, and then we both end up in, and I'm holding him up above water, treading water. During all that, my wife kind of freaks out a little bit. She loses her watch. I took a chunk out of my finger on the dock. We had a really rough first day, but in true Draper fashion, we bounced back quickly, came back the rest of the week and had a great time. We basically got up every day. We'd eat a good breakfast. We'd go out on the boat. We'd come back, eat some good lunch. Most people would end up taking a nap. Our daughter wasn't a huge fan of the tube. So we went tubing quite a bit, and she wasn't a huge fan, so we would go during nap time. My wife and I and the sister-in-law would take the boat out, and we'd go tubing. So it was awesome. We ate a lot, drank a lot, played games at night. It was a really cool vacation for sure. We did go to an establishment called Tilly's. What was it called? Tilly's Tail something or another, some sort of bar and grill. And it was not very good, to be honest with you. But it was really the only place that was open on the water, so we checked it out, and it wasn't that great. But we had a good time. But one thing that I thought was pretty funny was so it was the last day. And the area we were, it's Lake Hartwell's huge. So it's like this huge lake, and then it's got this little offshoots on it. And we were at almost the very northern part. Didn't have a whole lot of boat traffic really throughout the week. So tubing was not exactly it was fun, but we weren't getting a whole lot of action to where we were getting a lot of waves and stuff. And so we go out on the last day, and my wife had been on the tube for probably 15, 20 minutes, and she and I switched out, and I'm riding around, and we kind of come around this turn. And as I turn to my left, and I'm riding the tube, as I look to my left, there's at least 15 to 20 jet skis coming right towards us. It was almost like if you've seen Star Wars, and I don't know which movie it is, but you've got all the fighters that are all flying in together, and you see them from a far distance, and they keep getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And all I'm thinking in the back of my head is the Imperial March soundtrack, the dun 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 dun. And here they come towards me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are we about to hit that? And so, and I would not expect anything different. But of course, my wife goes full on, and she's like right behind them and hits all the waves. And so I'm just starting to bounce around like crazy, which made it a lot of fun. But it was, I told him as soon as we got back, I told him, I was like, that was a scene out of Star Wars. I mean, they were just all coming right at us. It was pretty cool, but good vacation overall in that. But guys, we're going to have to go to a break here in just a few minutes. When we come back, we're actually going to get into a little bit of sports talk. We'll do that as we come back from our break. But before we do that, we wanted to talk one more quick thing before we go to the break, and that is kind of what I'm terming Maskgate. It's really, we've been in a couple of different states now. Matt's there in Texas. We both live in Tennessee, but now we've been in Georgia and Florida, and it seems like across the country, people just cannot figure out what the right thing is to do. Should you require a mask? What's kind of the whole thing going on with that? Kyle, just out of curiosity, did you see a whole lot of people in the state of Florida masking up, or was it pretty loosey-goosey?
Panama City, not a ton of people in masks. We looked at the numbers for Bay County, which where Panama City is, and their numbers are actually less than what we have in the county we live in, Mike. So obviously the people that worked in the restaurants had masks on. Most of the people working in the stores had masks on. But most people that were just there on vacation did not. We did not wear masks a whole lot. However, Birmingham had a huge I don't know, outbreak or whatever, a big jump not long before we got down there, and so everybody was closed up and masks were on everywhere. So I mean, you can just kind of see the different the different ends of where we are as a country in just two places I went.
Yeah. Georgia was pretty similar. I mean, we didn't get out much at all. We went, like I said, we went to the one bar and grill. That was just on my wife's birthday, just to do something a little bit different. The employees there, the staff there were all wearing masks. We had tables that were completely far apart from people. They were really putting social distancing in. We went to the grocery store a handful of times. Not a lot of people wearing masks there. So, I don't know. I'm kind of with you. It was kind of hit or miss. Matt, we've only got about a minute here, but in Texas, what are things looking like there in terms of people really requiring masks? Because it's really kind of a hot topic, especially here in the South.
You have to wear them everywhere. In fact, I wear mine if I'm just like at the gas station. I wear mine at the gas station if I'm gas. But we're actually looking at going to Colorado, and they actually just initiated for the first time everyone must wear a mask rule if you're in a group. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, I wear mine everywhere, and I know my wife does, and they have one where you have to wear it if you're at any public place here in Texas.
Yeah. All right, the county that Kyle and I live in, they instituted that here recently. It doesn't really get, I'll be honest, I've been to a few places and people, like I was at the grocery store today and there were people not wearing one. I was wearing mine, but there were people that weren't wearing one. It's just, I don't know. I mean, you can have your political stances on it, but it's people are kind of all over the board for sure. Guys, we got to go to a quick break. I want to get right back to that when we come back from a break because I've got a kind of a weird story about that. But we'll be right back here on Dad's Watching Sports right after this break. Y'all stick with me. Thanks for checking out this week's episode of Dad's Watching Sports. We hope you subscribe to our show in Apple Podcast app as well, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But are you following us on social media? Now, whether your thing is Facebook, Twitter, the Gram, YouTube, or yes, even TikTok, you can find some great dad content on all of our pages. Now, enough of this nonsense. We just need to pay Kirk's PlayStation internet bill. Now, back to the show with Matt, Kyle, Michael, and all the fun of Dad's Watching Sports. We're back here on Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, and Matt Kirk. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Again, it is episode 24. We are almost a quarter way to a century of episodes. Kind of hard to believe, guys. We were just talking about masks, and in really different parts of the countries, even really different parts of states. People have different feelings on. I'm not going to go into who the person was, but I mentioned to you guys earlier. Today's my mom's birthday, and we had originally planned on getting together and doing something really nice and having her over here at the house with several family members. And come to find out that yesterday she was at a we'll just call it a political event for a political figure, and there were about 1,000 people at this event, and there was not a whole lot of social distancing, and there was no mask wearing. And so we talked to her earlier and said, hey, why don't we just maybe come out towards your house this afternoon and we'll do something outside and we'll just all kind of stay apart, but we'll still bring your birthday gift. We'll still do some cookies and ice cream, but I'll just kind of keep our distance. But I thought, man, there's a politician that's running for political office and they're having 1,000 people, even if it isn't an outside setting, and there were no masks and people were packed in like sardines. And Kyle, it made me just think, again, you probably know what political party it's affiliated with, knowing that there weren't not any masks there, but it's just mind is blown that that's going on right now.
Yeah, the mask thing is hard for me. I do think that, science says that masks help. Everything I've read says masks help slow the spread. Here's the only thing, my only issue with that. If we're slowing the spread, I'm not seeing outside of Florida and Houston, I think the only two places I've seen, we're not seeing a complete run on the hospitals. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason I can see to slow the spread. If what we're seeing is a lot of positive tests and people are sick for a week, but they're not having to go to the hospital, and I'm not saying there aren't people dying. I'm not saying there aren't, people having to go to the hospital. I get it. But people get sick and they die. That's part of life. And that's cold. And that's mean. And I don't care. All right? People get sick and they die. And I don't know. There's just something about the mask. I get that we need to protect people. But the people we need to protect, I'm not trying to say anything mean about your mom, but your mom probably doesn't need to be doing stuff like that.
Oh, no, I agree.
Right?
I completely agree. Yeah.
But if you told me that you at 36 years old almost.
Hey, 35 now.
Yeah, 36 in a couple months. How about that, brother?
Yeah, there you go.
I said almost.
There we go.
But, at mid-30s, if you want to go be around 1,000 people with no mask, I wouldn't worry as much.
And I'm not – the thing is – and we'll move on from this because I know this people can hear this conversation anywhere they turn on talk radio or whatever podcast. But and I'm not worried for me. I'm not worried for my family. But the people that we potentially interact with, that's my big worry. But anyways, we'll move on. Matt, we're starting to really get some sports back. I know this wasn't on kind of our topic of list to talk about, but baseball is back. We've had a couple of kind of summer league games that would have been in normal times would have been spring league or spring training games, and we're pushing forward to it. Also, something that came out just in the last couple of days: the Toronto Blue Jays, the Canadian, I guess the government is not going to allow them to play home games in Toronto because they would be going back and forth between the states. What's your take on the Blue Jays? And it looks like they may either be in Florida, they might be in Buffalo. But now here's a team that is severely impacted by coming back to play. The Blue Jays are.
And the Buffalo thing I read today, they said apparently that it is unlikely because they don't have sufficient lighting for night games at Buffalo.
Yeah.
So from what I read, it looks like they're going to be in Florida, but the players don't want to play in Florida. And I don't blame them, to be quite honest. But I think what's going to happen to them is they're going to have to – I think they may have to play at everyone else's stadiums and just play all road games this season. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. But in my opinion, they shouldn't be traveling anyway. They should be at hubs like they're doing in the NBA and just split them up. Have 4 different hubs or even 2 different hubs and, send the AL to one and NL to the other and quarantine them. I think that's the best way to do it. I think the NBA has hit the nail on the head. But, the baseball people know more than I do.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out over the next couple of weeks. I mean, we'll probably find out within the week of what the Blue Jays are going to end up doing. I mean, baseball starts here in just the next little bit, so they're going to have to come up with a plan really quickly to actually have a season and, like you said, not play all away games. Sticking in kind of the sports and COVID world, as that is our world right now. ESPN published an article this past week, guys, where it talked about Division I coaches in college sports, specifically football and basketball. And it, to be honest, it kind of called out, I guess you could say it praised and kind of called out some specific coaches who have and have not taken pay cuts during the COVID pandemic. And, we all know this has severely impacted a lot of different industries, and it's impacted education and higher education, higher learning institutions, specifically athletic departments. You think of most athletic departments solely rely on money from football and then basketball, specifically the NCAA tournament. And if they don't have that revenue coming in, which they didn't this past March, they're going to be severely impacted. So, Matt, I'll start with you first. What are your thoughts on this article? Did you have a chance to read it? What were your thoughts on it? Do you think some of these coaches should take a pay cut? Would you do it if you were in their case? Just kind of what were your overall thoughts on them really kind of calling out some of these coaches from Division I? I mean, it specifically mentioned like Dabo, John Calipari, to name a few.
I think that they should really I think it's just if the school wants them to take a pay cut, then they should ask them. I don't think that's anything wrong with the coach. Now, if the coach comes out and says, I'm not going to take a pay cut, then, yeah, they look like they're a bit selfish. And that could also hinder their relationship with their assistants. If it came down to, to a person that's having to provide for a family too, to, possibly lose out on their money, which, if their college hasn't asked them to do it, then I don't think they should be having to do it. I know this, that Sam Pittman was very open, and he said he would take a pay cut in a second if he was asked to, and he would have no problem. So I think that a lot of coaches would be on the same boat.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, when I read the article at first, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. But then I really started to think about it. And I'm not really a fan of – it doesn't say who put this out. It just says ESPN staff, and maybe they did that for a reason. But I don't know that this is something where they really should be spending their time highlighting because, one, I think you're absolutely right. The universities are going to have the best idea of whether they need to have coaches to do that or not. Like, I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and shocker, it's going to be about the University of Kentucky because that's a program that I follow and know a little bit more about. The University of Kentucky's, despite the fact that they did not have an NCAA tournament, are still in a very good place financially. I actually listened to a podcast a couple of days ago where John Calipari spoke about that exact thing because Mitch Barnhart, their AD, has done such a good job from a fiscal standpoint that he hasn't had to let go of any coaches or had to ask any to take a pay cut. But I also think, this article – really painted these coaches who hadn't to be selfish, to be heartless. It doesn't take into account that maybe the school doesn't pay their entire salary. For example, again, I'll go back to the University of Kentucky. A majority of John Calipari's salary isn't paid by the university. It's paid by JMI, who is their broadcast partner, who is a big sponsor of their athletics department. And so I think it's a little misleading to go out and say, well, these guys aren't taking, John Calipari makes $8 million a year. He's not taking a pay cut. And they also don't consider the fact, well, maybe these coaches are giving a lot of their money and their resources to causes to combat COVID. So, yeah, they're not taking a pay cut, but they're in turn taking the money, the resources that they have and turning that into a positive somewhere else. So I thought it was a little misguided. I thought it was an article that really just tried to paint people in a bad light when there's really no need to do that. Kyle, I'm interested to hear what your take is.
Look, I think that these coaches should understand optics. I mean, what does this look like? But at the end of the situation, at the end of the day, like, how many of us have taken a pay cut? We may not have the cushion that they have, but would it help your employer, Matt, if you took a pay cut? Or Mike, would it help your employer if you took a pay cut? Why are we greedy? Maybe it's not greed, right? It goes back to something I said in previous episodes. I don't remember how many far back, but I begrudge nobody for making money.
Yeah.
Matt's right. And I don't say that a lot, but Matt is absolutely right. If the school needs them to take a pay cut, they'll take a pay cut. But you look at the chart there at the top of that story, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, the school pays nothing for his $7-ish million a year, right? That's all that money comes from somewhere other than the school, all right? And so, like you said, like some guys they're not going to need to because the money is not from the school, and taking a pay cut doesn't help the school at all. Right. And at the end of the day, it's really none of my business. It's none of y'all's business. It's none of ESPN's business, the amount of money these guys make. Now, I get that some are paid through, they're state employees, and so it becomes a tax thing. But I don't know. I got a problem when it's not paid by the school. If the school's a state school, then yeah, I understand it being out there. But like John Calipari, if it's all paid from another company, from JMI, like you said, John Calipari's salary is not anyone else's business.
Right. Yeah, and I mean they're a public figure, so I kind of get the knowledge of at least what people are making. But yeah, I thought this article was in pretty poor taste. And again, it's they're calling out these coaches who knows what these coaches are doing behind the scenes to further, whatever related to COVID or something else. Maybe they know somebody that got laid off or something and they're helping them out. I just think that they were looking for clickbait, and I guess they got it because here we are talking about it, and I clicked on the story.
It's clickbait, but it's also a product of not having any sports, and these writers are they're down to their last idea, and that's their very last idea.
Well, and social justice being the hot topic that it is, and I'm just going to say it, and y'all can get mad at me, but if you look at the list of names that they put out, I cannot think of one minority person. It's a bunch of rich white dudes, and in this climate that we find ourselves, it's easy to vilify the rich white dudes.
It's true. There's no doubt about that. Guys, we're going to switch gears just quickly before we go to break here. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about English Premier League football and taking on the fanhood of a couple of teams. Kyle, we talked about it briefly. Matt and I did on last week's episode. I believe you decided to go with Tottenham, the Hotspurs.
The Hotspurs, baby.
Who got a victory over my Newcastle United this past.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah. It was,
and then if you notice, the Spurs came out again today and got a 3-0 win over Leicester City.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Leicester City. So the Hotspurs are
on a roll. Harry Kane, 2 goals today. Harry Kane, those of you who don't know, he is England national team's captain. So really good striker, forward, whatever you want to call him. So the Hotspurs killing it right now.
They are. They're playing well. Maybe one team that's playing a little bit better, though, is Chelsea, who's Matt's team. Chelsea got a big win over Man U today, Matt.
3-1, baby.
3-1, yes, sir. That's right. So both of y'all's teams are moving in the right direction. Mine, not so much. Newcastle's they started out really good. Right as soon as we got back from COVID, they had a couple of big wins, but they have started sliding here lately. They're still firmly in above the relegation line, but they're trending downward. We need to get some people healthy and get back on it. But when we come back from a break, one thing I wanted to talk to, and we'll touch on this when we come back, is the English Premier League has what's called relegation and promotion. And so the bottom 3 teams each season get relegated to essentially the minor leagues, and then top 3 teams in the minor leagues come up to the English Premier League, and they do this every single season. And so we want to talk about what would that look like potentially in other sports that could handle that. What would that look like? So we'll talk about that when we come back from the break and a little bit more that we'll get into. We got some golf coming up. We got the Memorial Tournament this weekend. Great tournament. I checked out a little bit of that while I was on vacation as well, but we'll get into that as well as the top 10 hype songs for athletic events, stadiums, arenas, because we're not going to be in stadiums anytime soon. We might as well just talk about what used to get them hyped. So we'll do that when we come back on Dad's Watching Sports. We'll be right back. Thanks for checking out this week's episode of Dad's Watching Sports. We hope you subscribe to our show in Apple Podcast app as well, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But are you following us on social media? Now, whether your thing is Facebook, Twitter, the Gram, YouTube, or yes, even TikTok, you can find some great dad content on all of our pages. Now, enough of this nonsense. We just need to pay Kirk's PlayStation internet bill. Now, back to the show with Matt, Kyle, Michael, and all the fun of Dad's Watching Sports. We're back here on Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, and Matt Kirk. We were just talking EPL, English Premier League. I'm rocking my Newcastle United, the Toon Army. Guys, we're going to get back in there. Don't you worry. Matt, you mentioned last week that Chelsea had Christian Pulisic on the team that's a member of the United States team. We also have one here on Newcastle United, DeAndre Yedlin, who was really, I guess it was about maybe 2 World Cups ago that really kind of had his breakout in that, but he's still on the USA team, national team. So we'll get there with Newcastle. Don't you worry. One thing we are not worried about it over in the Toon over in Newcastle is relegation. And guys, as I mentioned before we went to break, it's really kind of cool how the EPL does this. The bottom 3 teams, there's no tanking for draft picks in the English Premier League because if you're in the bottom 3, you get bumped down to a completely different league. And we'll just kind of put this for those of you that are joining us that aren't really familiar with I guess football from across the pond. It would essentially be, Kyle, like if a team was in the bottom of the SEC and they got relegated to Conference USA, more or less, or something like that. So with that thought, and maybe that's our example right there. Let's start with NCAA football. Matt, what's that look like? Let's just say for the SEC, if say Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Vandy are the bottom 3 teams, and I know Arkansas won't be there because I know you're going to cheer them on the victory, but they're the bottom 3 teams at the end of the 2021 season, and they get relegated to Sun Belt or Conference USA.
Or to the Big Ten.
Nice. I like it. Or to the Big Ten. Are you in favor of bringing relegation over to the states for bigger sports?
I think that if the money pot was all the same, then yeah. But I mean, you can't do that because different conferences bring in different amounts of money, and those universities survive off of that money. So I would say it would be cool in theory. But as my Razorbacks are bottom dwellers the last few years, I'm going to say no.
Kyle?
Yeah, so I think it could build some intrigue, especially in something like college football. I mean, imagine bringing North Dakota State in to the big time and put them in. My thought would be like D2 or one FCS up to FBS, and they would go to like the Mountain West, sending somebody like UNLV down to I forget what conference North Dakota State's in, but I mean that would kind of be cool. It's more than just money though, Matt. As far as competition, you run into some problems. FCS schools have fewer scholarship players than FBS schools, which is why you see a lot of times when FCS schools play FBS schools, those FCS schools kind of hang in there for the first quarter, the first half, and then it seems like they just run out of steam. It's because when you start to run out, you put in backups, and those backups are either younger or not scholarship players or stuff like that in FCS schools. Where FBS schools, they can roll in another, big time player.
So let me ask you guys this then. I mean, and not that I disagree with it. It sounds like for college football, it'd be very tough to pull this off. What sport do you think that could pull this off? Because I have in the back of my mind, I'll let y'all go first. The only one I can think of that would really work. Matt, I'll pitch it to you first. What sport do you think could pull this off or would actually be somewhat successful?
I think college basketball could, because I feel like that the tournament's there for a reason, and these Cinderella teams could make runs in a big conference and then really put themselves out there to, and keep themselves in there. Just, back whenever Butler had their little run where they were really good, they could be in the ACC now, based on their run there for a while.
Kyle?
I could maybe see baseball doing it. I mean, you have a minor league system in baseball, so it's kind of set up somewhat similarly to the English soccer leagues with Premier and everything underneath it. That would be the only one where I could see it maybe happening.
See, I think it would be the NBA because I think with baseball, yes, you have minor leagues, but they're affiliates of major league programs. So you would essentially be replacing them with potentially another team from that organization. Where the NBA, you got the G League, which they have no affiliation with teams. You can sign anyone from any G League team. So I think the NBA could do it, and it would prevent tanking for draft picks. If you take the Atlanta Hawks and the I don't even know who the bottom three are, the New York Knicks and the Washington Wizards, we'll say, and they get relegated down, and you bring in the Fort Wayne whoever's and the Iowa States, whatever, into the league, and it would also give the guys in the G League the opportunity to get some shine and some run in the NBA. So I think NBA, if you're listening, and I know you are, Adam Silver, I know you listen to us every single week. Let's bring relegation in. Not this season. We got too much going on this season. But 2021, I want to see it happening in the NBA. Again, I think that's the only one we could actually pull it off on. Guys, we're going to shift gears to golf just for a quick bit. We had the Memorial Tournament this past weekend, the Jack Nicklaus tournament, who unfortunately came out today. He actually admitted that he tested positive for coronavirus. So our thoughts and prayers are with the Golden Bear there. But, guys, Tiger barely makes the cut. He was at +3 going in to the last two rounds. The cut at the last minute kind of dropped off, and he barely made the cut. He ended up not being really in any contention at all. But, I feel like anytime there's a tournament where Tiger either plays well for a couple rounds or really tanks for a couple rounds, the conversation comes around to, is peak Tiger done? Kyle, very quickly, do you think we'll ever see the Tiger of old coming back?
Peak Tiger is not coming back. If you're a Tiger fan, just enjoy when he's up at the top of the leaderboard, and just know that this is not going to be the reawakening of Tiger.
Matt?
Well, I would probably say he's done. When he stopped, when he got busted for having his affair, having his little pre-match ritual he had there. He got caught on that, and that was over with for him. That was the end of it. It messed up his head, and he's not in it mentally. But I will say it's not more so if he is at the top of the leaderboards if he makes the cut. I think he's fixing to be well on his way out. Today he was tied for 40th at 6 over, and today he shot 4 over. So he's getting worse as the rounds go. He's not getting better. I'd say it's time for him to toss his clubs into the pond.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, peak Tiger, I think, is done. I mean, I as I mentioned, I watched a little bit of the Memorial when I was on vacation, just kind of during nap times and stuff. And he actually said on, I believe it was Friday, when he really kind of got himself out of contention, he said, his back is still acted up. And he said there's days that he gets up and he feels great, and then he gets out on the course and his back just isn't having it that day. And so I think peak Tiger is definitely done. I think he still is going to have some moments, though, where he shows flashes of what he's done. Like one thing I watched on vacation, I think it was the Golf Channel will play the 2006 Open Championship at St. Andrews, where he shot an 18 under, beat Chris DeMarco, who was continuing there with him. And I mean, the guy was just unbelievable. And I think he's still got a little bit of that left in him. I think he'll still win a couple of majors before it's all said and done. But is he going to be the dominant force he was for 15 years? I don't know. One other topic I wanted to throw in, or maybe two, about golf, specifically about the Memorial Tournament with this one. So Justin Thomas, the golfer, his caddy tested positive for COVID right before one of his rounds. So he had to emergency sub his father in for his caddy. over the weekend. So it brought me to this question, guys. If you are a golfer, or if you're just out playing golf one day, or for whatever reason you just need a caddy, and you had your caddy who was your trusty sidekick, and for whatever reason that person, whether it was COVID or a baby or just had to go take care of whatever down the road, you needed an emergency caddy, and you could choose anyone you wanted. Kyle, any thoughts on who you might choose as your emergency caddy?
I feel like this is an easy question. It's Bill Murray, right?
That's a really good answer. It's a really good answer. Yeah. Although I don't think you'd be able to really play that well, because in the background he's just going to be going, "The Cinderella story."
Well, it works out well for me because I don't play well anyways.
Well, that's true. You can blame it on that. Matt, any thoughts on who you choose as an emergency caddy?
Well, I would go with Chubbs Peterson, but God rest his soul. I'd probably say I'd have to go with Roy McIlroy.
Roy McIlroy. See, I'm gonna have to go with John Daly. It was a toss up between Tim Cup and or Cheech maybe or John Daly, but I think if you got John Daly, you're gonna have a little wild time. You're probably gonna have some wild stories throughout the course, but then he's also gonna be able to give you a little bit of golf savvy, a little golf knowledge, where he's gonna say, "Oh no, man, you hit the one." You're like off the rough. He's like, "Oh yeah, break out the one, man. You got it." So I would go with John Daly. Guys, we're going to move forward away from golf and talk about a topic that I was interested to bring up. So, because we have so much sports going on right now, I was kind of perusing ESPN over the week and trying to think of, what's something else we could talk about. And I came across ESPN released what they considered the top 10 hype songs for like stadiums, arenas, whatever, during games. I'll give you a couple of what they came up with, and then I wanted us to come up with our top 5 hype songs. So just to name a few for that ESPN came up with. Let's see. So at number 9, they had "Enter Sandman" by Metallica, which is a pretty good one. What are some other ones through here? Number 7, Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. Number 6. I believe was "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. So just to name a few, that kind of gives you a general idea. Their number 1 song that they had was "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. But
Starkville, Mississippi would agree.
Yeah, I'm sure that they would. But again, I post you, and we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll go kind of around the bat. So we'll start with Matt, and then I'll come to myself and Kyle. Matt, what's your number 5 sporting event hype song?
Well, so I don't know how many people have actually heard this song, but there's a song by Lil Jon. It's called "Throw It Up." That gets me turned. One time I turned so hard I broke the knob on that one.
Lil Jon, it's called what now?
It's called "Throw It Up."
Throw it up. Okay, I thought you were going to
throw it up, mother lover, throw it up.
I thought you were going to go with that. Turn down for what? But
turn down for what?
There you go. Yeah,
that'll be his number 4 song.
That's right. So my number 5 sporting event hype song, and again, I think it really is determined on what you mean about hype. Whether it's like it gets everybody like ready to fight somebody, or if it just gets the crowd energized and engaged. So my 5 is going on energized, engaged, and I've got "Sweet Caroline" by Neil Diamond. It never fails. That song comes on in any sporting arena or stadium, and everybody's in, and they're doing the bup bup. So I've got "Sweet Caroline," Neil Diamond, in my number 5. Kyle.
Yeah, so I kind of went down the same path as you with my number 5. Not the same song though. I went with "Cotton Eye Joe" by the Rednecks.
Oh, nice. Yes, Cotton Eye
If that doesn't get people up and slapping their knee and dancing and making fools of themselves, nothing else will.
That's right, without a doubt. Cotton Eye Joe for number 5. All right, Matt. I tell you what, we'll go reverse order. All right, Kyle, you're number 4.
Number 4, that's one that is more, getting everybody ready to fight. I remember hearing this in locker rooms, getting ready to go out and play games. "Never Scared" by Bone Crusher, featuring Killer Mike and T.I.
Never scared. There we go.
Never scared.
We ain't never scared. Anyway.
That's right. All right. So my number 4 is a little. It's not as old school as Neil Diamond. And Vance, if you're listening, you playing some Neil Diamond. But my number 4 is "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses. I mean, that's just it doesn't get a whole lot better than that one right there. I feel like that gets people pretty pumped up. So that's what's your number 4?
Number 4, I'm going to go by "Jump on It." I don't know who that song is by, but that dun 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 dun, Tonto, jump on it, bum, bum, bum. I always like to dance to that one.
That's funny. Okay,
Not a bad one.
not a bad one at all. Well, Matt, while we're with you, we'll stick with you. What is your number 3?
We ready all night, or whatever the words are from there.
I think it's "For Y'all."
Yeah.
And man, that's funny. That's literally my number 3 as well. It's by Archie Eversole featuring Bubba Sparks.
Bubba Sparks.
Yeah. So I got "We Ready." That's a good one right there. Man, that takes you back to high school. Kyle, number 3.
So that was both your number 3s. Was "We Ready"?
Ready.
Interesting. For me, that guitar riff that opened up Seven Nation Army.
Yeah.
Man, that's good stuff. I know you already mentioned it on the ESPN, but I love just that song in general. It's one of them that you can listen to working out. It gets everybody hyped. So Seven Nation Army, White Stripes.
There we go. That's a good one for sure. While we're with you, Kyle, what's your number 2?
Number 2, I am a Predators fan. And
Okay. Yep.
for those of you that have been to Preds games where they win, which the last few years they've won a lot, after every win, they play "All I Do Is Win" by DJ Khaled. And
yes.
so I enjoy myself some "All I Do Is Win" because it usually means the Preds have won.
All you do is win, 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 no matter what. Everybody
And go up, and they stay there.
That's right. So for my number 2, it really reminds me of 2 different things, and I think they're both really iconic. Enter Sandman, it was on the list that ESPN had. For me, if I hear that song, I'm thinking Virginia Tech football or Mariano Rivera is coming in to close it down in the 8th or 9th inning. Those two entities are really synonymous with the song. If you've never watched a Virginia Tech football game when they're playing at home and they run out and those 90,000 fans are all jumping up and down to Enter Sandman, that is on my bucket list of places to go watch a game, and I don't care anything about Virginia Tech other than to experience that. But I think that is so cool. And then again, I mean, when the best closer of all time comes in the 9th inning and you stand no chance and he comes in to Enter Sandman, there is nothing more ballsy and just awesome than that. So I got Enter Sandman at my number 2. Matt, sorry.
Man, I tell you, talking about baseball, I just get, and this isn't one of mine, but I think about Rick Wild Thing Vaughn coming into Wild Thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would make the hair on your neck stand up for sure.
No doubt about it.
But for me, I got number 2 with that ball with the ball, the bang, diddy. Kid Rock.
Yeah.
That one, and then I'm going for my number 1 too, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go "We Will Rock You" by Queen.
Nice.
And I remember the scene from The Mighty Ducks whenever that song comes on and the whole place singing it on their feet at the Junior Olympics.
But they are actually singing "We Will Quack You."
We will quack you.
Yes. But they're going bonkers, and that's how I picture it being.
And I think the great thing about that song is every time you hear it, it's immediately followed by "We Are the Champions." I mean, you can't listen to one without the other.
Yes.
That is without a doubt what makes that song great for sure. So my number 1, again, it's kind of one of those, you got to be in the right place at the right time for this song to be. Kind of like I did with Virginia Tech and Mariano Rivera. If you've ever been to a night football game in Death Valley in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they play Call in Baton Rouge, there is nothing on the face of this earth that will get you hyped and get you ready for a football game like that. So that is my number 1, Call in Baton Rouge by Garth Brooks. It's the best football atmosphere of any atmosphere I've ever been in. And when they play that song and there's 100,000 drunk Cajuns singing at the top of their lungs, It may not smell great, but it's going to sound great, and it will. Matt, you mentioned the hair standing up on the back of your neck. We're all pretty hairy guys, and the hair all over my body was just all over the place because it's awesome, and that's my number one.
That'd make the hair on my toes stand up.
Yeah, it did mine actually. I was like, oh, I forgot I had it down there.
So I guess it's time for my number one, and I have one here. I mean, I can share it, but I don't think I want to go with it.
Okay. Share it anyways.
I'll share it anyways. So the honorable mention for me is We Ready, Archie Eversole, Bubba Sparks. I can remember going out for pregame warm-ups in high school, and that song played. Like, that was his first song during pregame that played. And so that it had a lot of sentimental for me. But there is one song that I have seen 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 people. I know we're not talking about 90,000 in a football stadium, but in a smaller, more intimate setting, just absolutely lose their mind. And when you hear that glass shatter to start it out, da-da-da-da-da-da, the Stone Cold Steve Austin entrance music.
I love it.
Oh, I think that one. Like,
I love it.
You go back and you watch some of that wrestling from the late '90s, and when that music
the pop
hits,
he got, oh my
it's
goodness.
insane.
That makes the hair on my back stand up.
Like, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it.
People are literally dying in the stands because they have heart attacks. I mean, yeah, there is nothing greater than the pop from Stone Cold, like late '90s.
Yes,
Something's going on in the ring, and there needs to be a guy coming in to raise some hell. Yeah, there is.
And drink some beers.
That's right. Yeah, or milk. What was he? Didn't he spray somebody down with milk with a milk?
No, he was in a beer truck.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
And Vince McMahon starts doing like the swim in the ring. That's awesome.
Yep. That's classic Attitude Era right there. That's awesome. So Stone Cold Steve Austin. I went with Matt Rouge, and Matt, you and We Will Rock You. Those are all good songs for sure. So guys, we've got just about a minute left, and I wanted us to, a couple of weeks ago we teased our NASCAR. We're going to kind of do something similar like we're doing with EPL. We're going to kind of choose a NASCAR driver that we're going to choose to follow. We literally have less than a minute left here, but I want to get this in. Matt, just very quickly, who's the driver that you're choosing to follow, and how committed are you?
In the Blue Deuce, Brad Keselowski.
Brad Keselowski. All right, Matt or Kyle, who you got?
My grandfather was a big Bill Elliott fan, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. He's got a son out there named Chase Elliott, and I'll follow him.
There you go. Well, to my knowledge, there's only been one professional athlete that's come back from 1 week of COVID-19, and that is Jimmy Johnson. And I know that man is retiring at the end of this year, but I'm going with Double J, the seven-time champion, to finish up his career. And then we'll come back and we'll pick a new one again next year. But I mean, if the guy comes back after 1 week, man, he's a little bit better than everybody else. So I'm going with Double J. But guys, we got to get out of here. We will be back next week on Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all take care.